Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the biographical Psalms, and today we're in Psalm 54. This psalm happened not long after the last song we talked about, Psalm 52. And the superscription says, "To the choir master," which is interesting. David is writing this on the run from Saul, but he's written this as a public hymn. To the choir master with stringed instruments. So he's putting together the demo. He's saying, this is the way I want this song to be performed. A maskil, that is the kind of a tune it is. We have no idea what that word maskil means, as we don't know the meaning of the word Selah, which was in last time's psalm, will be in this psalm as well. Although it may mean something like rest or repeat or something, the way it's used in the text. A maskil of David, when the Ziphites went and told Saul, "Is not David hiding among us?" These events are recorded in 1 Samuel 23. And this is particularly bad, what happens to David. So Ziph is a wilderness area, a sparsely inhabited area in the Negev region, which is southwest of Judea, of Judah. Would not be Judea at this time, Judah, southwest of Judah. And David has defended with his guerrilla force. Remember, David has 600 men, and mighty men, and he protects the southwestern border of the nation from the Philistines. Saul's not doing it. Saul's spending all of his time trying to hunt David down. David's been doing it. And he has saved this particular region already from Philistine invasion. And it's also in this area that he and Jonathan have been having secret meetings with each other. Jonathan is an underappreciated character in the Bible, just an amazing human being. When you think about the knife's point he had to navigate in being a true friend to David and a respectful son to Saul, but he did it and died in doing it. And then the Ziphites, when they found out David was there, even though he's the one that's been protecting their borders, went and tattled to Saul and let Saul know he was there. So we have 7 verses, and it's not like 52 because it's not directed at the Ziphites. It's directed to us and to God. And if there's a structure to this song, it goes back and forth. 1 through 3, he talks to God. 4 and 5, he talks to us. 6, he talks to God, and 7, he talks to us. So let me just read the 7 verses of this song. O God, save me by your name and vindicate me by your might. O God, hear my prayer, give ear to the words of my mouth. For strangers have risen against me, ruthless men to seek my life. They do not set God before themselves. Behold, God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life. He will return the evil to my enemies. In your faithfulness, put an end to them. With a free will offering, I will sacrifice to you. I will give thanks to your name, O Lord, for it is good. For he has delivered me from every trouble, and my eye has looked in triumph on my enemies. The structure of this song is like the structure of Psalm 22. Which begins, "O God, my God, why have you forsaken me?" In that it happens in waves, and the waves are these. There is a wave in which he cries out, and a wave in which he remembers God's salvation, and a wave in which he cries out, and a wave in which he remembers God's salvation. And it's almost like he's talking to himself, reminding himself to trust in God because God has always delivered him in the past. And that happens in Psalm 22. And we would be wise to remember that when we read Psalm 22, that it is not in any way an indictment of God. It is a cry for help, as this one is. So God save me by your name. He wants 2 things. He wants deliverance from the danger present and also vindication. This is always important to David when he's a young man and when he's an old man. When he writes Psalm 3, which we've already looked at, and he's an old man, it upsets him when people think God has deserted him. And God has not deserted him. And he wants people to know that God has not deserted him. That's important for him to know. And so he talks about strangers, ruthless people, and they don't make God more important than their own interests. And then he reminds himself, God is my helper. This is what my relationship with God. He's the upholder of my life. And so he's going to do this. I know he will. The confidence in verse 5. And then the last line of verse 5 ought to go with verse 6, because that's the section. And remember, the verse designations are not in the original text. Those have been added much, much later. Talks to God, I'm going to praise you. And it's not bargaining. It's not bargaining in any way. It's just promising that I'm going to do what's right, that I'm going to show proper thanksgiving because I have faith that I am going to receive deliverance. And then talking to us about that deliverance, looking not only to the present. So the first speaking, God is, that's the presence. He is my helper. And then the last line, spoken to himself and to us, looks to the past. He has delivered me from every trouble, and my eye has looked on the triumph of my enemies. David is always using these two coordinates, the past and the present, in order to see ahead into the future. Not to see details, but to know generally how things are going to end and to remind himself that God is always faithful. And I think that's the importance of this song. Okay, we're going to pick up with Psalm 56 next time. Thank you so much for joining me for another 5 good minutes.